Something's happened here.
Where is everyone?
There's a myriad of universes out there. And people will be looking for them.
We're connected to this place. We've got something important to do.
Hello. So, I want to talk about the first episode of the new season. I thought it was marvellous. Bloody wonderful. I think there's so much I need to discuss about this, so I'm going to go to my Twitter thread, which I tweeted. I will link it in my description, my live thoughts of the episode. But I just wanted to do a quick review, because originally what I wanted to do, I wanted to do a reaction, but then I just realised I just don't have the ability to perform that. So I decided instead to just tweet about it. So I absolutely loved the Mrs. Coulter. She was looking at Asriel's notes from his observatory and had those little pictures of Lyra through the ages in, which warms my heart a little, and is a little detail that's from the lantern slides. And if you don't know what the lantern slides are, they're extras that got cut out of the book or edited differently in the book that are available in some of the editions of the books. So those are little things that they have, that little thing that they added in is really, really great in my opinion, because that's one of the excerpts from the book. Like, it's one of the bits that they cut out of the book. Absolutely, I loved that. I also loved the new credits. The one thing though, there was no balloon in this one, so that kind of annoyed me, but I'll get over it. I loved how, I was worried, and I think a lot of people were worried about how they were going to show the spectres, since they had actually been showing them in the trailers, and how they were going to sort of talk about spectres, and were they going to have us see them on screen, where like Lara and Will going to see them and things like that, because that ruins like the plot point. And the fact that they had the spectres sort of make the spectre-y noises, so we knew that they were there, and the kids kind of felt like something was there, but they didn't actually see them. I thought that was really, really cool. I also think that the sexism in the Magisterium is absolutely disgusting, but also perfect, because this is something that we talk about a lot, that Lyra grows up in this world that is sexist and has a stronger sense of patriarchy than I think our world does. And I think Racg and Faye from her Dark Materials podcast talk about this a lot. They talk about feminism in the books a lot, and I think this is something that they might talk about in their podcast episode, their TV show episode of the podcast. But I thought it was disgusting, and when Mrs. Coulter kissed the Cardinal's hand, I was like, absolutely not. No, thank you. That was horrible, but also perfect. And then I just wrote Lee motherfucking Scoresby and Hester. I absolutely love Lee. If you don't already know, Lee is my favourite character in the series. I adore that man. He is absolutely wonderful in my opinion, and I love his relationship with Hester. And so that little bit where she's like, I think we're out of our depth, and he goes, shut up Hester. Loved it. And I loved that witch council. It was great, absolutely great. And I loved the music. I think the music in this show is wonderful, and we had notes of Lee's theme already, so yeah, that was really cool. Mrs. Coulter is really, really evil, but I love how they're showing the Cloud Pine, because there was discussion, I think the costume designer might have been talking about it, but I can't remember exactly who, but in previous sort of interviews and stuff from last season, they were talking about how they chose to do the Cloud Pine a little bit differently, because they didn't want the witches just to have, like, you know, brooms. They wanted it to be a bit more cool than that, because I think witches on brooms can be a little bit cringy and also a little bit anti-Semitic, I guess. So they changed it, and I think it was wonderful, and I loved that's how they tortured Katja. They, by they, I mean Mrs. Coulter. But I think the Cloud Pine is absolutely wonderful, and how the tattoo slash scar thing is sort of like encasing the Cloud Pine in their arm. I thought that was my favourite thing, I think, that they changed or added into the TV show from the books. I just I was like, wow, that is so cool. That is so cool, and I love it. I loved how in the witches meeting we had Kaiser and Ruta's demon discussing as Ruta and Serafina were discussing. Absolutely loved that. I loved the omelette scene, and I loved how Lara called it an omelette. I'm gonna call omelettes omelette from now on. She just stabbed the cardinal. That was shocking to me, and I knew we were going to get a lot more in-depth discussion of the Magisterium that we don't really get until the third book, but I thought this was really interesting because it was always interesting to me that this cardinal seemed to be a little bit more conservative, especially when it comes to experimental theology. It's very much reserved and doesn't want to explore so that they can control. He's got a bit of a different tactic, and I thought it was very interesting how to get him out of the way, as it were. When Lyra makes the omelette for her and Will, and she has the eggshells in it, because obviously she hasn't been taught how to cook, she doesn't know that you need to take the egg out of the shell, and instead of like just telling her that she's a bad cook, Will says, "You seem to have added your own little twist." I thought he's a politeness icon, I wrote. Loved him. Pan is fierce. Love Pan. All of his different shapes in this episode, I absolutely loved them. We have his like little ermine, we have the pine marten, we have the red panda and the wolverine. I think that big one that they scared the kids away with was a wolverine, but correct me if I'm wrong. I thought it was great. I thought it was really great, and I can see now why they were so into the Will storyline in the last season, and that I think the whole show would have played out differently if we had to introduce Will in that first episode. It would have felt like so much exposition in that first episode, because it's exposition heavy in the book anyway, but in the TV show, like that whole episode of exposition, it would have put off viewers. I think it would have definitely put off viewers who haven't read the book, and so I like sort of not second, because I already thought the decision was cool when they did it, but like, you know, back it up even more that now we can see that it was totally necessary to have Will be introduced in season 1 so that we can get straight into the Lyra and Will becoming friends this season. So yeah, I absolutely love this episode. I think it's interesting that Ruta was the one who went to save Katya and not Serafina. I think it's interesting, the choice, because Ruta seems to be a little bit more fierce than Serafina. Not that Serafina isn't fierce, but Ruta is fierce in a different way. But the one thing that did kind of get me is that we didn't see Ruta / Serafina sort of using their like invisibility power, and that is something that is heavily talked about in the book, because it's how they sort of relate Will and Serafina, how they can sort of like be passed by without any, like be passed by and no one noticing them. And I think that would have been really nice to have in the show, and I'm a bit disappointed that they didn't have that. And I think that's the one thing that I would say about this episode that I didn't quite like all that much. But that are my thoughts. I thought this video was only going to be 5 minutes, but clearly here it is 9 minutes long. Depending on how this is received, depends how much more of this type of stuff I'm going to do. But if you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below if you'd like me to do these for every episode. If not, I won't. But I really wanted to talk about my feelings. It was so great. It was so good. Really, really hope you enjoyed my video. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Please subscribe and stick around. I have a whole playlist of his Dark Materials videos if you are interested. So yeah, thanks for being faithful, and thanks for watching. Mwah.